The fight for a green corridor between the Wattagan Mountains and Stockton Beach has come to a grinding halt. 2 years after it was promised, environmentalists say they're still waiting for Coal and Allied to hand over Tank Park near Minmai, which is the last major parcel of land the corridor needs.
It's right in the middle of the narrowest part of the corridor. If you missed that particular piece of land, you wouldn't have a corridor.
In 2006, the coal company signed a memorandum of understanding with the state government, stating it would hand over around 2,000 hectares of land as long as it could develop 20% of it.
And to be just hanging off on negotiations is just not good enough. The tank paddock has to be protected whether this deal goes ahead or not.
The coalition says delaying the expansion of the Green Corridor could affect hunter wildlife.
There'll be species that become extinct in this area because of their inaction.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Craftsman Lucas Baker trained as a mechanic with the Army Reserve before duty called in December last year. The 26-year-old serves in Talil, about 300 kilometres southeast of Baghdad, where he repairs and services an Australian fleet of light armoured vehicles.
Yeah, it's great. We're a good, close-knit bunch of blokes. Everyone gets on well together.
He's always loved heavy machinery, though these wheels are a little bigger than the ones he worked with at the Toronto bus service near Newcastle.
I'm really proud with what the Australians have done in Iraq, and to be a part of it is a great honour. And it's given the people of Iraq a real chance to have a secure future.
His memories of family are held close, yet so far from home.
I have a fiancée named Jitlani, who I love very much and miss a great deal while I'm over here. Looking forward to get back, really miss home. It's hard to be away from your family for this length of time, so it'll be good to catch up and maybe indulge in a couple of quiet ales down at the local.
Lucy Wilson, NBN News.
Back to the familiar break of blacksmiths, the gloss of a gold medal win in Western Australia hasn't lost its shine for these 4 girls. Kirsty Waugh, Nikki Chapman, Danielle Radford and Emily Chaffee won the Under-19 swim team event at Surf Lifesaving's national titles, backing up their state win.
I don't think it's anything to do with more training because everyone does the same amount of training. I just think we've just got a lot of talent coming through.
The club certainly does. 3 of the 4 girls are just 15, yet beat swimmers older than them with more experience.
So we're looking for a new generation coming through, and these girls have filled that hole in for us.
The only thing left for them to win is a Surf Lifesaving New South Wales award, of which they are nominated in the team section. Nikki Chapman finished second in the Under-19 National Iron Woman event. She's now pressing for a spot in the next professional Iron Woman series.
I thought if I want to have a crack at it, I'll better try now while I have the time.
The 19-year-old lists the now retired Carla Gilbert as her idol. Her coach, though, remains the biggest influence.
Brian Hutchings, he was like a legend in the sport, and he taught me everything about surf, and he taught me to respect the surf and how to be a gracious loser.
And obviously, how to win.
It's a simple but successful idea, a touch football tournament between Australia's richest industries to raise awareness and money for homelessness. 36 teams from mining, wine and banking companies have spent the past 2 days competing in the Hunter Valley.
The touch football is the excuse to get everyone along, but it's been a big event. I mean, we've bitten off a lot, but we've been chewing pretty hard.
Local stars took on the Pecolban Reds in today's celebrity match ahead of the grand final. Some more skillful than others.
A bit of mud in the face, a bit of mud, look, all over actually.
The New South Wales mining team won the competition, but it's Australia's homeless population who are the real winners.
I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the donations we're pushing up towards half $500,000.
Much of the money will stay in the Hunter, going to Newcastle's Wesley Mission. The rest will be divided between homeless services in Sydney and Adelaide.
The demographics of homelessness have changed dramatically in the last decade, and one of the problems for a lot of them is they need psychiatric help, and so we'll be getting specialists there.
And the inaugural event won't be the last.
We'll be coming back in 2009 and it'll be bigger and better.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
I'm overwhelmed at the response, actually. It's been unbelievable.
Belgian Jules Robert won his last world title in 1972, yet all these years later, the magnitude of his efforts hasn't been lost among the motocross set.
I was surprised to see so many people coming and asking me an autograph.
In retirement, he rides a 125 scooter. Today, though, it was back to the 250s. This his first ride on a dirt bike in 15 years, and much has changed on the track and off it.
First, the riders, they go for money and the sport after. Before, it was the sport.
And it was every bit the sport back then. Machines were heavier, demanding more strength from the rider prior to the 1975 suspension revolution. There wasn't much of that at Classic Dirt 5, a gathering of motorcycling enthusiasts and their vintage machines, the first time it's been held outside Victoria.
It's just passion, and I don't think they ever want to let the early era of motocross die.
This is how the new local area commands will look following Northern Region Commander Lee Shearer's recommendation today. The new and much smaller Lower Hunter is shown in yellow, Port Stephens in blue, and the amalgamated Newcastle and Waratah in red. It's now up to the Police Commissioner and Minister to approve the boundary change.
My recommendation will leave here today. It will be considered by my hierarchy, and I'm just suspect that we will have a decision quite quickly on this strategy.
However, the police union says it will do everything in its power to make sure the plan doesn't go ahead in its current form.
We need to ask the Minister not to sign off on this proposal yet until we have a guarantee that we're able to maintain reasonable levels of service delivery.
The union believes the Newcastle and Waratah commands will be left short-staffed after officers have been moved into Port Stephens.
We're going to be creating the largest local area command in terms of volume crime in the state, with the next closest being Bankstown.
But Ms Shearer has dismissed their concerns.
I am satisfied that the management team will be big enough to deal with the management of this command.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Today's strong wind whipped the stench into submission, but when other weather conditions conspire...
It is utterly unbearable. It's sort of like a combination of burnt sump oil, diesel, a chemical in there, and the last time it was really bad. It almost had a smell of burnt flesh to it.
This is where many residents are pointing the finger, the nearby Rutherford Industrial Estate. The Department of Environment and Climate Change agrees, but says its testing hasn't been able to identify the exact source.
It's not necessarily the same premises on each occasion because we've got a large number of those, around about 6 premises in total. So it's a matter of looking at each one of them in turn.
The department says its investigations will continue, but worried about possible health effects, locals like Karen Turner want urgent action.
Pretty desperate. There's some very ill people around here, and it's like their concerns aren't being heard or taken seriously.
Ms Turner has formed a committee and is encouraging other residents to join the fight by keeping a log of smelly situations. She also hopes to meet the State Environment Minister next month.
It's one of Newcastle's most popular locations. The chance to get up close to native Australian animals has drawn young and old to Blackbutt Reserve for almost 2 decades. But soon the experience could be a costly one, with the Blackbutt Support Group recommending Newcastle City Council start charging entrance fees to animal exhibits.
Council was generally of the view that the support from the support group in collecting an entrance fee to those exhibits would be worthwhile.
The fees under consideration in Council's draft management plan are $5 for adults, $4 for concessions and $3 for children, which if implemented would raise thousands of dollars each year. The Lord Mayor says the money is needed for animal food and enclosure maintenance.
If that money was offset, well then there'd be more money available to make sure the cages are up to a good standard.
While some today said they would pay an entrance fee,
I'd pay to see them, yeah. It's for a good cause, so definitely.
If it's used to provide the animals with good food and a decent home, then I wouldn't mind at all.
Others were outraged at the idea.
Yeah, I'd jump the fence. I wouldn't pay them. No way.
Well, if you're going to charge that, I hope they actually have more facilities, more exhibits.
And we have to pay, then it's more expensive and you probably wouldn't travel up here.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Proving just how highly regarded he is in rugby league circles these days, Kurt Gidley's inclusion in the Australian side came as no surprise. The 25-year-old happy to prove last year's Test appearance was no fluke.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you don't want to be, just a one-off Test player, so it's nice to be to be chosen again. I'm looking forward to the game.
Gidley says he's hoping for plenty of game time against the Kiwis anywhere on the park.
Last year I sort of come on early with Gaz getting knocked out and I ended up playing a bit of fullback and also a bit of hooker, so I'm a utility player for the team, so I guess I'm happy to play anywhere when I come on.
The utility will go into camp with the Kangaroos after lining up for Newcastle against the Gold Coast on Saturday, but club captain Danny Badiris could struggle to back up against the Titans following the City Country clash.
Yeah, it's not even 24 hours after, so I'll have to see how much I participate on Friday night's game and what sort of possession we get and how much I am involved.
In what is likely to be his last season in the NRL, the country captain has given a clear indication he's gunning for the Australian number 9 jersey, as well as a winning series with the Blues.
That's my big one. I'm really looking forward to finish on a good note there with New South Wales, and hopefully we can turn the tables and win that shield.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. Having raced away to an 18-point lead, Cessnock eased off in the second half, allowing Wyong to restore some pride. The Goannas still had one trick up their sleeve, Gavin Quinn using plenty of strength to open up space for winger Chris Pine, who raced over in the corner. Wyong lock Rowan Kelly grabbed a double late in the game, but the visitors had already bagged the points. To ice hockey, and the Newcastle North Stars brought in 4 fresh players for the home clash with Canberra last night, but still suffered a heartbreaking loss. New import Gabrielle Andre found the top corner midway through the third period to level the game at 2-2, but in the final minute a deflected shot found its way into the Newcastle goal. Finally to netball, and Newcastle has taken out 3 divisions at the Hunter Region State League titles played in Maitland over the weekend. Wyong claimed the Masters division, while the home side was too good in Division 1 under-17 competition. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I did think it was pretty much finished, but that's not the case now. I'm very happy and looking forward to trying to re-establish myself in the Oilers team.
If your postcode is 2299 and that includes Lambton, North Lambton and Jesmond, you'd better be vigilant about securing your car. Police and AAMI figures show it's one of the worst areas in the state for car theft.
And it's basically been put down to a number of youths who we've been targeting for a period of 12 months.
Police say the young people are mainly targeting older model vehicles which have fewer security measures than new cars.
In particular, we look at the older style Holden Commodores and Ford Falcons, and also the Ford Lasers of more recent times.
Lambton was the only non-Sydney suburb to feature on a list of the 10 worst affected areas statewide compiled by insurer AAMI. Police say an average of 10 cars are being stolen from the 2299 postcode each month, most of the vehicles from right under their owner's nose.
The majority of cars are being stolen on public streets, outside of houses and in driveways.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
It's a sound Hunter Water wasn't expecting to hear for many years to come. Water, and plenty of it, pouring over the edge of the spillway that was only completed in 2005. Since Friday, up to 500 million litres of water a day has been flowing out of the dam. That's about how much Newcastle uses every day.
We thought it was going to take a long time to fill the dam, so it's really exciting.
The excess H2O is heading back into the Williams River and out to sea. Ironic because Hunter Water plan to pump from the Williams over the coming years to fill Grahamstown. The Lower Hunter's water supply is now secure for at least 18 months.
We're about 97% full now, so that's fantastic. We haven't been at that level for a long time.
However, not everyone is celebrating the Williams swollen banks. Last week's flooding inundated this property Martina Kovacs rents for her equestrian business near Raymond Terrace, which has already been hit hard by last year's floods and the horse flu outbreak.
A lot of time and effort and money and loss of business because obviously I can't hold any riding lessons at the moment.
Port Stephens Council believes thieves stole a number of local floodgates which the Department of Lands has temporarily replaced.
I think it's a haven for squatters, and it's dangerous because you can see the broken glass. People are afraid to walk past here at night.
Lindsay Parish was clinically dead on November 24 last year. The 73-year-old suffered a heart attack just minutes after voting in the federal election at a polling booth in Tanambit. Patterson MP Bob Baldwin and an off-duty nurse performed CPR on Mr Parish for 12 minutes before an ambulance arrived.
I mean, I'm still here, and without their help I wouldn't have made it.
Today, his miraculous survival was celebrated. The paramedic who restored his heartbeat using a Zoll defibrillator presented the East Maitland resident with a very special and rare watch. The Zoll timepiece is only given to people who go into cardiac arrest, then live to tell the tale.
So that does make Lindsay an extremely rare person in this world, that not only has he been in a cardiac arrest where his heart stopped, but today it's been reverted.
While Mr Parish was clearly chuffed with his memento, he said he had no plans on earning another.
Well, I don't think you just do it if you knew what had happened.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
It was a vicious attack, which left 15-year-old Rochelle Barron battered and bruised.
She hit me, pushed me into a brick wall, then she got me down on the ground, kneed me in the head.
The abuse continued for almost a minute, but what caused just as much pain and stress for Rochelle and her parents was the fact that the fight was filmed by fellow students at Toronto High School and posted on YouTube.
I was really angry and upset because Rochelle could have died from the bashing. She's got cystic fibrosis, as you know, and diabetes, and she's got a portacath, and if she had been kicked in her portacath, it could have punctured her heart.
Police say cyberbullying is on the increase, with the culprits now entering the home through computers.
It's talk on the internet, MSN, or saying things about people on notice boards, but we've also got people sending SMSs via their mobile phones.
Rochelle says she had also been sent nasty and threatening emails before the attack in February this year. The video has since been taken off the website following police intervention, but her parents don't mind showing it as a reminder to others of how extreme bullying can be.
As parents, we're providing the access. We've got to be more proactive in supervising our kids online.
Rochelle says she's still too traumatised to return to school.
I'm scared of getting bullied again and don't want this to happen again. And I've lost most of my friends over it.
The school's principal says action will be taken against any student found to have recorded fighting, and he will not tolerate violence or bullying. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Well, I'm a selector and I don't know about any done deals, so I'm sure he's in the mix. Well, I know he's in the mix because we've discussed him, but no one's across the line.
With the prospect of losing Badiris for the clash with the league-leading Titans, Mullen's return is a huge boost. Following his impressive performance against the Roosters, Chris Bailey retains his place alongside Mullen in the halves. Danny Wicks moves into the starting lineup, while Matt Hilder could make an unexpected start against his former club if Badiris can't back up after Friday night. Meanwhile, the Titans are getting used to life at the top with 3 players selected for the City Country clash.
Yeah, this is going to be a real tough game for us. With the 3 players alone coming back from rep footy, that's going to be a real challenge.
The Gold Coast has named a 21-man squad as insurance for Lafranchi, Minicello and Delaney. Michael Hodgson and Luke O'Dwyer will be monitored this week after both suffered minor leg injuries against the Warriors. With Mullen returning for the Knights, the battle with the informed Scott Prince will be one to watch. Both players are expected to miss out on State of Origin selection, rubbing more salt into Prince's wounds after he missed out on an Australian jersey.
I think he's a bit sick of it, all of it, and I'm sick of it as well. As soon as you get asked a question about it, it's, of course we're disappointed. He is disappointed, but selectors got a job to do and they've done it.
Unbeaten at home, the Titans will be looking to stretch their winning streak to 6 games. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. Having taken out the A-League title, it's only fitting the Jets should provide so many players for the 17-man pre-Olympic training camp. While Adam Depuzzo, Tariq Elrich and James Holland have already seen action in the Olyroos, Jason Hoffman is yet to feature prominently in Coach Graham Arnold's plans. Hoffman believes this camp provides the perfect opportunity to impress the boss.
I suppose it was a shock to get caught into the Olyroos side because I'm still only young and I didn't quite have a stellar season in the A-League.
Hoffman hasn't left the training paddock in the off-season to try and increase his chances of landing a spot in Beijing. The fact he's already played junior internationals in China doesn't hurt either.
That was my first taste of Asia, and I found out how hard it was. As soon as you got off the plane, the heat there is just, the humidity and heat, it's just something you don't expect.
Onto the green, and the 56th annual Newcastle City Masters is underway at Lowlands Bowling Club. Former national champion Sam Laguza is back for another shot at this title, and today luck was on his side. Last year's beaten finalist Leonard Scott joins a host of former winners in the draw, including Soldiers Point's John Collins and Windale Gateshead's Terry McCabe. Competition continues tomorrow with the finals to be held on Friday. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
A group mostly made up of local power station employees protested outside the Member for Maitland's office today, but their pleas for the MP to withdraw his support for the privatisation plan went unheard. Frank Terenzini wasn't there, and neither was Jodie McKay when they fronted her office on Monday.
I believe my job is under threat. I don't believe that private industry will look after the industry as we have.
I think he should be here. I mean, if he's opposed to it, or for it, he should turn up and explain his reasons as to why.
Organiser of both protests, the Newcastle Trades Hall Council, was surprised to find out the MPs aren't even among the 800 delegates who have been elected to vote at the party's state conference. They're on a list of standby delegates.
That's interesting that I've just been told that neither Frank Taranzini or Jody Mackay actually have been nominated by their state electoral council to actually get a vote at conference. Well, that's good because that's 2 less votes for the privateers and 2 more votes for the non-privateers.
The MPs may not be getting a say this weekend, but with the final decision resting with Cabinet, the union will continue to apply the pressure.
If on the floor of conference at the weekend there is a vote not to privatise electricity, that he supports that democratic process, supports that motion.
Federal member for Newcastle, Sharon Greeson, is an elected delegate and will vote against privatisation. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
Lily Mae Wood had lived at 33 Dawson Street all her life. She was known for her love of animals. She slept on her veranda, where she was found dead in March 2007 with bruising to her head after an alleged robbery. Her passing caused an outcry in the community. Today, the woman charged over the 88-year-old's death pleaded guilty to manslaughter and aggravated robbery in the Newcastle local court. 34-year-old Evelyn Gay Lampkin from Bar Beach appeared via audio-visual link from prison. She was refused bail by Magistrate Michael Morahan. 2 counts of obtaining money by deception and stealing property will be taken into account in sentencing in the Newcastle District Court. Her co-accused, Christopher Lee McFarlane, was today formally committed to stand trial in the Newcastle District Court on charges of being an accessory after the fact to manslaughter and aggravated robbery. He was also refused bail. They are both due to appear in the Newcastle District Court on May 8. Penny Evans, NBN News.
When the New Zealand company launched its Newcastle super yacht operation with much fanfare in June 2006, it expected to employ 400 people with the promise of tax breaks from the state government and competitive rent from the Newcastle Port Corporation. The workforce peaked at less than 50 and steadily declined until today, when the last 9 men standing were sent home after the lights went out.
Cash flow again has affected the business. They can't afford to pay the electricity bill. They've had the electricity shut off this morning. They can't afford to pay their rent. They've run out of workers' compensation insurance, and there's no work for those employees to be working on from here on in.
The workers met at a nearby watering hole to debrief and say they feel deceived.
Well, they've just employed my own bloke a week ago. Give me a promotion. I thought everything was going straight ahead, and it was good. I got a $3 pay rise last week and then terminated today.
The men are concerned about their entitlements, and the collapse leaves an uncertain future for 4 apprentices.
Hopefully I can find another job like that, otherwise my trade's going to go down the Google.
There was no response from the company today. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
The Cancer Council hopes sufferers and their families will see the bus parked at their local shopping centre and ask questions about the organisation.
A lot of people say to us, oh, I wish I'd known about you earlier. So this is a way of actually almost having a moving billboard all over rural New South Wales saying, ring the cancer helpline, we can help you.
A cancer nurse will travel with the bus, answering questions about the disease and its treatment and promoting services such as the helpline and support groups.
They can find out what we can do to support them if they've got cancer and their families, but also around prevention messages and talk about our research as well.
It's a service Sue Galley wishes she had when she was diagnosed with cancer, the first of 4 times 21 years ago.
I think this is one of the best things that has ever happened to
people that have got cancer. It's providing information that's on the spot. They don't have to travel anywhere.
The bus will be in Newcastle until Friday when it heads to Nelson Bay. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
The midweek matchup gave the ground some time to dry out at Hamilton South, not that it mattered too much for the hosts, putting their faith in long-range attempts, and that's all they were. For Olympic, it was all show, no go, while South Cardiff toiled head-on, persistence the key. These scenes would be repeated twice over as Jamie Subat scored 3 times for the Gunners, handing them win number 1. Also last night in Newcastle and Hunter Rugby, the Greens ran in 3 tries against the Waratahs, including this effort off great hands to send Chris Bennett over. The Tars no match for Carlton, but did show some fight through Brad Holster, intercepting then sprinting to give the visitors their only try. On the competition front, it's down tools for Kyle Garrett. As a carpenter though, being home means back to work, having plied his surf lifesaving trade at Sunshine Coast Club Mooloolaba over summer.
It got me to where I wanted to be, goals-wise, for this year, so I thought I'd come home and get some money back together and get my head together and see what I'm going to do for next season.
As for the season just past, Garrett was awarded one of 2 wildcards in what surf sport insiders say was the most competitive men's field ever assembled. Garrett finished last, but qualifying again along with the Coolangatta Gold represents this year's priorities.
Now that I've done it, I want to go a bit further with it, and it's just in my blood, I think, to try and improve myself, so yeah, hopefully that happens.
Whether that's done out of Queensland or at Redhead is now the question, but the 24-year-old admits the latter is looking like the better option.
I like training down here. There's a lot more passion in the clubs. There's a lot more determination from the guys around you to make you go well.
Just picked off a couple of lucky ones and, got some good scores.
Newcastle police say the city's streets haven't been this safe in 8 years, with all major crime categories significantly down over April.
In particular assaults, we only had 76 recorded for the month, which is the lowest since May 2000, and it's about 33% down on average.
Some crime rates have plummeted to record lows.
Break and enters for this month, again, some of the lowest that we've had recorded. We've only had 81 recorded for the whole month. Again, that's well into about 35% below our monthly average.
Car theft has dropped by a third and malicious damage is also down, while the reduction in all crime areas can't be put down to the city's controversial 1 a.m. lockout. Police have been quick to sing its praises.
This has been our opportunity to look at one whole month, and the results are very positive from that perspective. I'm hoping that they are results that can be maintained.
Police say an increased presence on the streets has also been effective.
The police have been out there intervening, talking to people on the street, being out there, being really proactive.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
They are only months out from facing the voters, but the region's elected council representatives are facing probably the toughest test of their term. The councillors are now framing their final budgets with total rate income only allowed to rise by 3.2%. Councils can apply for a special rate variation to raise extra income, but it won't be easy.
If they want to make an application that's going to be successful, they have to produce a good and powerful business case so it makes financial sense for them to do it, and they also have to establish that they've had community consultation.
Hunter Business Chamber expects local councils will apply, but has warned them if businesses and residents have to adjust their budgets because of cost increases, so too do councils. Meantime, the Minister has used this week's visit to the region to admit Cessnock Council was on his radar prior to the current Department of Local Government investigation.
Cessnock Council is a council that often attracts my attention, and I maintain a constant state of vigilance in relation to that council.
He now awaits the departmental inquiry report before deciding whether to hold a public inquiry. Gary Blair, NBN News.
These are the people responsible for selling Australia as a tourism destination. The 550-odd tourism representatives have been in Newcastle since Tuesday for the 31st Annual Australian Tourism Export Council Symposium.
These people are going on familiarisation tours, looking at what the Hunter has to offer, and then they can put that in a package and sell that to international tourists.
In particular, they'll be focusing on attracting more backpackers to the area through promoting Newcastle as an international surf city. The backpacker market brings in $3.1 billion to the Australian economy each year and accounts for 11% of our market. Coincidentally, the conference itself is doing wonders for Newcastle's tourism operators, injecting around $1 million into the city's economy. Meanwhile, today, an unsuspecting 16-year-old Courtney Espley became Virgin Blue's 1 millionth passenger to fly into Newcastle. The whole experience was a little overwhelming.
Oh, kind of scared, a bit excited.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
When the Newcastle earthquake shut down the Greater Building Society's Hamilton headquarters, it was forced to operate for several weeks out of a staff member's house. But should another disaster strike, the institution says it'll be ready.
We think you can't be any more ready than what we are now.
The Greater has spent almost 3 years and $6 million building this top-secret duplicate headquarters in an outer Newcastle suburb where up to 300 people could relocate within hours of any problem occurring at head office. The building has its own electricity and water supplies, and its main computer backs up every transaction in real time from the 65 branches across New South Wales and southeast Queensland.
Everything that we have the ability to do to service our customers from head office, we have the ability to do here.
The Building Society says it would be happy if it never needs to use its new expensive bunker. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
It's the misery of May. The flu bug begins to bite. And while you may not be able to avoid the lurgy, you can at least now help authorities keep its spread in check. FluTracking.net asks volunteers to complete a quick weekly online survey.
We ask them if they've had a cough or fever that week, and if they have, whether they've had any time off. That comes straight back into our database and we get a weekly snapshot of flu activity.
An initiative of Hunter New England Health and the University of Newcastle, FluTracking.net is going national in this, its third year. So far, researchers have recruited 1,600 volunteers, but they still want more to help build the big flu picture.
Well, we like to know when flu has arrived so we can alert the health industry, nursing homes, people with immune compromise. We like to know if flu is particularly more severe, and it can also help tell us whether the flu vaccine is working effectively.
Last year there were doubts about the vaccine, but the survey showed that participants who'd had a flu shot were protected. Dr Dalton says information from the survey could also prove critical should a flu pandemic hit. You can register at www.flutracking.net. The weekly email survey will begin on Monday.
It was a back-to-basics approach at Knights training today. As for the finer detail, including who'll play where should their country contingent not pull through, is known only by the Newcastle coach.
Yeah, we've got a plan there, but at this stage I'd rather keep that to myself.
A plan, though, which we're told could include Adam McDougall and Matt Hilder, who's almost certain to meet his former club.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. The coach said if Danny pulls up a bit sore or something, then I might get a start. So I've been ready for it.
After leaving everyone gobsmacked with that try against the Roosters these days, Danny Wicks is more impressed with his choice of words. No arguments from us. Adam McKilrick, NBN News. He came to Newcastle with a reputation as one of the world's best footballers, and time would show that's all he had to offer. But even it's been tarnished now by admissions of cocaine use.
Certainly there was no indication that during his tenure here that he was partaking in that activity.
This week, the once brilliant Mario Jardel, a two-time European Golden Boot winner, told a Brazilian television audience he started making mistakes as a result of bad friendships. A divorce followed, then depression, and ultimately cocaine use. He also stated that he didn't take drugs while he was playing and hasn't taken them for 2 months. Jardel parted ways with the Jets in January.
Were there any rumblings from players through to coaching staff that Mario could be using these sort of drugs?
No, not at all. I mean, if that was the case, we certainly would have acted upon that.
The club has confirmed the Sports Anti-Doping Authority did attend Jets training throughout the season, but doesn't know who was tested. As for the future, Jardel told the TV audience he still wants to play for so-called big clubs, having acknowledged his mistakes. Should he make a return to the World Game and succeed, what a turnaround that'd be. Adam McKilrick, NBN News. He came to Newcastle with a reputation as one of the world's best footballers, and time would show that's all he had to offer. But even it's been tarnished now by admissions of cocaine use.
Certainly there was no indication that during his tenure here that he was partaking in that activity.
This week, the once brilliant Mario Jardel, a two-time European Golden Boot winner, told a Brazilian television audience he started making mistakes as a result of bad friendships. A divorce followed, then depression, and ultimately cocaine use. He also stated that he didn't take drugs while he was playing and hasn't taken them for 2 months. Jardel parted ways with the Jets in January.
Were there any rumblings from players through to coaching staff that Mario could be using these sort of drugs?
No, not at all. I mean, if that was the case, we certainly would have acted upon that.
The club has confirmed the Sports Anti-Doping Authority did attend Jets training throughout the season, but doesn't know who was tested. As for the future, Jardel told the TV audience he still wants to play for so-called big clubs, having acknowledged his mistakes. Should he make a return to the World Game and succeed, what a turnaround that'd be. Adam McIlrick, NBN News.
Overall, the younger girls performed a lot better than the older ones this year, so they're just giving us a chance, and I've never done anything like this before, so it's pretty big.
The shake-up of the Hunters Police Commands has been awaiting the Minister's stamp of approval, and it came today.
It's all about more effectively and efficiently using police resources to give better service, improve services for the families of the Hunter region.
The Lower Hunter, Newcastle and Waratah commands will be carved up, creating new boundaries.
What we will see is an amalgamation of the Waratah and Newcastle local area commands and effectively a halving of the Lower Hunter area command.
The changes also include the creation of the highly anticipated Port Stephens Local Area Command, which will be run from Raymond Terrace from the 1st of July. Assistant Commissioner Lee Shearer today admitted some police will be relocated and outlined the new personnel numbers, with 297 for the amalgamated Newcastle Waratah Command, 172 for the Lower Hunter and 108 for Port Stephens. The Police Association says it's still involved in negotiations with the New South Wales Police and is disappointed that the Minister went ahead with today's announcement. They're not yet convinced there will be enough resources allocated under the proposal. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Right through the field days, there's a growth in all areas and there's lots of optimism about agriculture.
Interest rate pressure is certainly being felt in the Hunter. We're now spending less, and a leading indicator of household consumption shows the short-term outlook of those surveyed was the most pessimistic in a decade.
The concern with share market collapse, concern with the subprime meltdown and where the US is going, these kind of issues are obviously weighing on people's minds.
But this negativity is tempered by employment and salary growth, according to the Hunter Valley Research Foundation.
Employment is still phenomenally strong, and that's not going to dissipate overnight. So we've got a lot of strong employment, a lot of people with income, wages coming into their pockets.
And they're definitely not spending their money on new cars, with sales down 5.8%. Bucking the national trend, the Housing Industry Association says building approvals in the Hunter and Central Coast are 8% higher than the same quarter last year. According to the foundation, though, non-residential building approvals were cut by more than a third, suggesting businesses are cautious about capital investment. Pressure on the rental market remains, with a 1.5% vacancy rate in the Hunter, 0.9% in Newcastle. Researchers believe that's only going to get worse, with a continuing lack of supply and greater competition. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
It's taken 150 years and 5 generations of Tyrrell winemakers for the brand to become the household name it is today. Managing Director Bruce Tyrrell says there are a few key elements that have contributed to the family's success.
We've never been great trend followers. We either start them or we stick to what we're good at. Because if you're forever chasing in this game, chasing rainbows, you never actually achieve anything.
The business began in 1858 when English immigrant Edward Tyrrell planted his first vines in the Hunter Valley. Since then, every generation has contributed to and left its mark on the brand, but they've never strayed from the family motto, which reflects their business philosophy.
The motto is Nil Magnum Nisi Bonum, which literally translated as nothing is great unless it is good.
This month, Tyrrell's is celebrating their milestone by hosting the Hunter's biggest barbecue, a huge family reunion and special tree planting. But just what the future holds for the family business is anybody's guess.
The fifth generation, well, that's up to them. History will write their feet.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
The moment.
I think there should be some cautious optimism about interest rates at the moment. I agree with people like Gail Kelly, who said yesterday that she thinks the Reserve Bank probably have enough at the moment, enough signs to say that they could pause with the cash rate cycle. We're starting to see some moderation in demand in the economy, so that's a good thing. We're starting to also see some moderation in all forms of credit.
The City Country match may no longer be the Origin selection trial it once was, but try telling that to those involved tonight. Ben Cross is using the game as an opportunity to press claims for a Blues jumper.
They said it wasn't last year, but a few guys got a stepping stone to go to Origin. I'm sure it is this year as well. It's been publicly stated that there's positions up for grab, and hopefully I can put my best foot forward and get one of them.
While he's set to back up from the bench for his club tomorrow night, his captain is at growing odds to play, with the man himself to make the final decision.
It depends how many minutes he plays, but I don't think we're looking at him to play this week.
Mullen is just happy to be back playing at all and knows he's in for a real test against the informed Scott Prince.
He's one of my favourite players in the NRL. I love watching him, and we've all got to show him respect, but not too much respect.
Given their recent history of poor starts in games, you can understand why Newcastle is extra wary of coming off the bye.
Some teams come out after the bye and they play terrible, and some teams come out refreshed and start playing well. So hopefully one of those teams that come out and really put it to them.
Somebody told me we got smashed after our bye last year, so I hope that's not the case this time round.
Jim Callanan, NBN News. Sam Lagutsa didn't get better with age. He's always been very good, and it was no surprise to see him reach yet another final of a prestigious event like the Masters Singles. Something of a journeyman in terms of clubs, the now Toronto Workers-based bowler got off to a flyer in the final, racing to a 21 shots to 6 lead over Mick Lane. The Adamstown bowler doing what he could to reel in the margin. There was little stopping Lagutsa though. He wrapped up the decider in fitting style, taking all 4 shots to claim his 4th such title, some 20 years after first winning the Masters Singles. It'll be a far different pace near Anna Bay tomorrow, with some 800 triathletes to race in the New South Wales Club Championships. Action from One Mile Beach just before noon. And some great derbies highlight Newcastle Rugby League this weekend. Starting tomorrow at Cessnock. On Sunday, Central will be hoping to end a long run of outs against neighbours Lakes United. Wanderers to face a big test against the Waratahs tomorrow in Newcastle and Hunter Rugby. Edgeworth and West Wallsend, meanwhile, kick off the NBN Football League round with 4 games on Sunday.